So Tony was directed by Matt Johnson and stars Dominic Sessa, Antonio Banderas, Emilia Jones, and Leo Woodall. And this movie, it's about a portion of Anthony Bourdain's life when he was in college and struggling to make a name for himself and become relevant in some way. And in this movie, he winds up taking a job at a restaurant to kind of impress this girl, but it doesn't really work out. But he does find a new passion in cooking in the culinary world. And we have a movie that's basically inspired by his life. So this movie, I was not entirely on board with this movie. On one hand, I do like A24, and anytime to make a movie, I was very excited. Matt Johnson as a filmmaker, I don't know too much about him. I have seen Blackberry, which I thought was pretty good. His movie with his comedian partner from Nirvana, the band, the show, or whatever it's called. The movie I thought was pretty fun. And knowing that he directed this movie too, it's kind of a complete 180, but kind of more in line with Blackberry, I guess. But the actual aspect that made me more excited for this movie was actually Dominic Sessa. If you don't know him, he was the kid in The Holdovers, and I thought he did a really good job in that movie, standing up against Paul Giamatti and Divine Joy Randolph. And also, I was very excited to see him in a new movie like this, where he's actually the lead of this movie. And so, as far as this movie goes, this movie was a delightful surprise. I actually had a really good time with this movie, and honestly, it's just one of those movies that kind of made me happy as I was leaving the theater. So, let's start off with what I do like about this movie, and that's usually the actors. The actors are fantastic in this movie, particularly Dominic Sessa. I thought he was really good in this movie. He doesn't portray Bourdain as someone who's like 100% perfect or anything like that. It's like, no, his character is actually a really horrible person in this movie. And it's actually very interesting to see him take on this role and kind of be like this jerk in a weird way. But he's also very sympathetic in a unique way. Like, you kind of recognize he does some really terrible things in this movie, but like you do understand where he's coming from. So I actually like that with this movie. Antonio Banderas as his mentor in this movie, I thought he did a really good job. Honestly, one of Banderas' best roles in recent years. Also, Leo Woodall, who was also in Tuner earlier this year, which I didn't review, but I also thought that was a pretty good movie. I thought he was really good as this terrible influence on Tony's life. I won't spoil too much about him, but like he is really good and it's like very chaotic, and I found him to be interesting in this movie as well. Also, I do like the blending of comedy and drama throughout this movie when it's funny at first and then it can get pretty serious, but I felt like it worked overall. Even like there are some jokes in this movie that kind of repeat themselves, like there's this one gag involving uh Tony getting a bucket of water thrown at him. Like at first it's funny, and they do eventually kind of change it up throughout the entire movie. It's like, okay, that was also really funny too. But the dramatic scenes also work as well as the comedic scenes in this movie. A lot of the stuff in the kitchen I thought was actually pretty funny and also kind of like relevant, because like I remember working in kitchens like that, so it's like that's kind of fun. It's not really a typical biopic, I feel like, because I feel like this movie, it's obviously only about like a certain portion of his life, but it's like less about him, who he was overall as a person, but more like the moment that kind of course corrected him and kind of felt like it was actually the moment that kind of changed him. It's like, that's actually very interesting, and I actually kind of prefer that with a biopic rather than something like, oh, this is about the entire person's life. And also, I do feel like this movie kind of made me want to be a better person overall. Like, there were definitely some moments where I kind of feel like maybe I was kind of like a horrible person or did something bad, and I'm kind of thinking, obviously nothing as bad as some of the things that happened in this movie, but like kind of made me want to just try to be better overall. I feel like this movie definitely shows that anyone can be redeemed in some way. So what don't I like about this movie? Now, as much as I say Dominic Sessa did a really good job in this movie as Anthony Bourdain, something that kind of bothered me with his performance, and it's not really his performance, is that he doesn't really look like Anthony Bourdain in this movie. I would argue like he's a really good actor, and I'm really excited to see him in movies now, but like he doesn't look like Anthony Bourdain, so it's actually kind of distracting a little bit. Even in some biopics that maybe I was not a fan of, like let's say Bohemian Rhapsody, even though I don't like that movie, Rami Malek still looked like Freddie Mercury. Or in the Michael movie, Jafar Jackson, obviously being a relative of Michael Jackson, he looked like his uncle. But this movie, it just looks like Dominic Sessa playing Anthony Bourdain rather than someone being Anthony Bourdain, if that makes sense. Also, the lead female character in this movie, played by Emilia Jones. I almost said Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones. No, Emilia Jones. She was in Coda, and I felt like her performance is fine, but like her character is so thinly written that honestly any actress could have played her. It's not like all the other actors where it's like, oh yeah, Dominic Sessa, he played his character very well. Antonio Banderas, Leo Woodall, they all played their characters very well, but her character is not very interesting. And I felt like her character could have been played by any actress. I will say it is kind of interesting, the whole love triangle in this movie, where it's like Anthony Bourdain wants to be involved with this woman, but at the same time, she's dating this guy who is also kind of a jerk. And I kind of found that a little slightly refreshing in the sense that like normally I hate those where it's like, oh, it's clear that this guy is really good, but and he wants to be with this girl, but the girl's dating a jerk. But like it kind of inverts itself where it's like it's clear that he's kind of cool if the other guy's kind of cool at first, but the girl doesn't want to be with the main character and such. And then the whole role reversal actually kind of works for the movie. I kind of prefer that with love triangles rather than just seeing like the same thing over and over again. But if you do have a chance to see Tony in a theater, I would recommend seeing it. Honestly, I kind of want to see it again because, again, I felt like it just left a smile on my face as I was leaving the theater. And I would definitely recommend it, saying it's one of the better movies of the year. So Tony, the performances are really good. The blending of comedy and drama work. I do feel like it's not really a typical biopic, and I do feel like it kind of made me want to be better as a person overall. And I feel like there are a couple issues with the movie that are kind of holding it back a little bit. Again, the female character could have been, written better. I'm referring to her as a female character. I'm not even referring to her by her name. It's that's how blandly written she is. And also, I feel like Dominic Sessa doesn't look like Anthony Bourdain, but I feel that that's mainly just like a nitpick rather than something that's really going to keep me from watching this movie again. But overall, this is definitely a very good time, a very strangely uplifting movie in a weird sense. I will give Tony 3.5 out of 4 stars. See it. So, who is someone that you want to see a biopic of? Comment down below, subscribe to the channel. This is Pat. Stay safe.